Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.
Welcome to another episode of the Talking Power podcast, episode 85, and we are rocketing along. And we got I'm joined with Simon Gonzo Travellini and Todd Brinkworth, co-host. How are we, guys?
Great, Nick.
Yeah,
Todd?
Pretty good, Nick.
Going well, Todd? You enjoying the Zoom experience, Todd?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, fair enough. Guys, we've got some breaking news tonight. We have got some breaking news, and when I use the term breaking news, I use that very loosely on the Talking Power podcast. But this man, Simon Travellini, can confirm the turd or no fair
No
is
fair, yep.
number one, the fastest Toyota Camry in the world.
Quickest and fastest world record holder. Officially, drag times #1 Toyota Camry in the world. So just want to, take some time to thank the tech team, the Talk and Power tech team, Dave, Trev, Nick, and yourself, Todd, for the hard effort, all the engineering that went into going after that world record. And once again, putting WA on the map. The Motorplex, now the #1 track for Toyota Camry racing. It's been a huge honour to be involved in this project and be the guy that was selected to drive it. Originally, Dave was going to drive, and Dave may still get that opportunity as he is lighter than me, and I would expect that we'd be able to reset that world record. So now we're going to put the challenge out there. Anyone that thinks that they can take us on, mate, we're waiting for the time cards, the video evidence. We have been confirmed. We have been thoroughly scrutinised by the Drag Times team, and we have the #1 spot. So I can stand and do the Puerto Rican finger pointing here.
Now,
#1 in the world.
Now, I checked as well. You had 8/10 on the guy in second place. 8/10, that's huge. That's a massive gap. And 8 mile an hour too. So that's a...
Nick, we're only just scratching the surface, mate.
I know.
We're only just scratching the surface.
And in a fitting tribute in this podcast, I didn't have any Toyota Camrys. This is the closest I had to a Toyota Camry line about for the episode. So that is Marcus Ambrose's Toyota Camry from, I think, 2011 or 10, when he actually won, I believe, at Watkins Glen in that one, I think from memory, in the Nationwide Cup. So
now I believe that Jay Leno is trying to take claim for this spot with his funny car inspired Toyota Camry. But I just want to say that this is a genuine Toyota with a Toyota engine, Toyota transmission. It is a genuine street car that I have been enjoying driving to work every day.
And doing other things, which we'll talk about later, won't we?
No, we won't.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're insinuating. Anyway, moving on.
We're going to wipe that off the list. Hey, you wanted, I had here in the notes who's ruling the roost, and that's a really topical question right now. Who on earth?
Listen, Nick, I was watching the, I can't remember, it was a morning show, I think on Channel 7. I don't think anyone actually watches it, so I was probably the only person watching it. Anyway, and the anchor or whatever he is, what his position is, I don't know, cleaner, whatever. He referred to Andrew Forrest and his wife as the king and queen of Australia. So, and I don't want to say anything derogatory because considering the fact that he is considered the king of Australia, I'd like to get a knighthood. So, Andrew, if you're listening in, Sir Gons, I think that's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, who is ruling the roost? Let's. The Andrew Forrest thing, I can see how that happens, but him bringing in the Victorian Chinese Consul General Long Zhu, I didn't think it was a great look for himself or for Greg Hunt, and I think he was kind of, I don't know,
ambushed.
Ambushed is probably
Is that the word you're looking for?
But I don't think it was a good look. I don't think it was a good look.
There's a more important point to be made about that. He got the, whatever, the faulty test kits, whatever they are, right?
Yep.
Did you know that the Australian government foot the bill for those?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that.
I don't know. I think the word faulty is. I mean, Roger Cook defined it as. No, they didn't meet the spec, but they can still be used in
like
other
Aeroflow.
Yeah.
Which I'd just like to add that the world record holding Camry, all the fittings are Aeroflow on that, because I believe that you should use components that are fit for purpose.
Yeah. Yep. No, we subscribe to that. But I also believe that I believe Roger Cook's definition was that they didn't meet the spec, but they're still useful in some applications in the medical industry. But I think what he's trying to say is that, they didn't meet a specific specification. However, we can still use
look, he's right. It's like some ECUs that are out on the market. I think that they're still useful. We have a few of them at work that we use as wheel chocks. So maybe that's what he meant.
Anyway, toaster or a coffee machine off him.
It's an interesting time we're living in, because we're seeing all these people jockeying for positions, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the podcast as well. We're not just having a go at the AFL and the NRL. We're also going to be looking at Donald Long, our favourite drag racing promoter, a little bit later, and also the NHRA. And they've probably not been all that transparent either, and I don't believe that they're doing the right thing either, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, I just wanted to touch on also, I've just mentioned the AFL. It's also interesting to see how this is also going to pan out for West Australia now. We suddenly were able to train, McGowan allowed gatherings of 10 people a couple of weeks ago, yet our AFL teams weren't able to train in groups of 10 because that would give them an unfair advantage. Yet now it's quite all right for them to have to stay in Victoria for 6 or how many weeks because of our border closure. And that's not seen as an unfair advantage on the AFL.
Didn't one of the AFL teams get busted?
Yeah, Adelaide.
And they got a 1 week suspension that was suspended.
That's correct. Yep, 100% correct. Yep.
So I'm not really big on the chasing of pigskins. So just explain to me a 1 week suspension that's suspended. Is that like a double negative?
Yeah. So what it means is basically don't do it again. If you do, we're going to give you that 1 week.
Oh,
that's exactly what. Yeah.
So that sounds fair.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how the AFL operate. Yeah, so many double. I mean, they don't want to compromise a competition. Unfortunately, the competition. I mean. It's going to be compromised, but I think the double standard here is phenomenal. But anyway.
I'm going to have to stop you there, Nick, because my wife has reminded me on several occasions that this is a motor racing show, and we shouldn't be talking about politics or AFL.
That's exactly right. So we should move on to Motorsport Australia, I think. Now, talking about being on the front foot and being very transparent, they came out on Friday, actually, but the document was released today. It is called Return to Race. So they've come out with a 10-page document today, and it's a document on how they plan on returning to racing events. Now, it's built on 4 key strategies here. So motorsport activity is conducted outdoors and in most cases in locations with a large site area. Motorsport is a non-contact sport, limited to no sharing of equipment and communal facilities, and events can be run without spectators. So they're building their return to race on those 4 key pillars. Head to that document, have a look at it there. It's very interesting. They've broken it down into what sort of motorsport event you're looking at having as well, and whether you're going to be able to run, and what are some of the things you'll need to take into account. The key to take out of that is still at this stage, no spectators.
And on that note, this has played very well into the hands of the Motorplex because, firstly, even on a Wednesday night, we're generally restricted to the confines of our vehicle. There's well and truly more than 1.5 square meters between the competitors. Right? And the fact that no spectators are allowed, well, no one's going to even notice because they didn't have any anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew you were going that one. I was like, all yours, Simon, all yours.
So I think they're in a really good spot to really lead us out of this COVID-19 self-isolation phase
don't be like that. Don't be like that. I mean, I was actually doing a Zoom meeting the other day, and I had this background. I was doing the Zoom meeting with this background here, and
Nick being tech savvy.
There we go. Look at that, and look at the crowd there. That's at the Motorplex. Look at that. Check that out.
When was that? 2000?
No, it was a Top Fuel meeting.
Todd, don't be like that. That's just been very recently, I think. That was the Top Fuel meeting.
Oh, okay.
It was. No, they had a good crowd at that and at the Aeroflow meeting.
Yeah.
It's a shame about the other 8 meetings.
There was 8?
You guys don't help me, do you? You really don't.
We're both going to get a ban, aren't we?
Nah, all good. So, look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really great to see that Motorsports Australia are forging ahead with a plan, and that's the important thing. We had the guys from Targa West on a couple of weeks ago, forging ahead with a plan. If by whatever reason the government guidelines don't allow some events to go ahead, at least they can say that this is the plan forward. This is what we're planning on doing. At the time when we get closer to those events, we'll know one way or another what we're doing. But at the moment, a lot of other sporting affiliations just don't know how to go forward or how to proceed.
Yeah, and you know what? I've spoken praise about Mark McGowan, and I still believe that he's doing a fantastic job, and that whole team really should be praised for how they've handled Western Australia.
And I just want to reiterate your point as well, Mark McGowan. I still think he's doing a magnificent job, and we're really proud of him, and we're proud to call ourselves West Australians. You know what? It's already time for a break, so we'll take a short break here, and after this, we're going to be coming back with COVID-8. For those of you that don't know, you'll have to tune in and find out what COVID-8 is. So we'll be back right after this. All right. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the Talk and Power podcast on 88.5 FM and on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and wherever you get your podcasts from. Now, COVID-8. Donald Long, one of my favourite personalities in drag racing. I think the world of him, and I think what he's done in drag racing in the radial world is second to none. But I think his latest attempt to get an event, well, he's selling tickets as we speak. So this is going ahead the 22nd of May and 23rd of May at the Orlando Speed World Dragway. It will be the 8 fastest radial versus the world cars and 8 of the Pro 75 cars. Pro 275 cars. They're going up for a big race in just a couple of weeks. I just wanted to run some stats by you guys here. At the moment, I ran these stats out last night. Florida has 38,828 COVID-19 cases and 1,600 deaths. In the Orlando area, there's been over 1,339 cases and only 229 of them have recovered, and there's 30 deaths. My personal opinion, if I was Donald, I think it's too soon to be racing, even though he's only selling he hasn't said how many tickets he's selling to the spectators. It'll be a limited crowd there. I still don't think it's the right look or the right feel. I just wanted to know what you guys think.
Todd?
I was about to add, I've been watching a fair bit of YouTube, and I've been watching actually a build-up about some of this, believe it or not, and some other YouTube celebs that live in the Florida area. Personally, I think they're a bit stupid. Like, they can't wait to get outside again. And to them, it's just a number, and it's scary. Like, it's legit.
My wife and I have been waiting for the vegans to come out, but apparently they came out on the weekend.
Yeah, they did, Yeah, one went to court today as well.
Yeah, so
where?
One had her day in court today, a vegan.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
But, I think it's too soon. Like, America is still hard hit, and it's crazy. And I mean, but mind you, Florida apparently has relaxed their restrictions already. There's people moving to Florida to go race and drift and all types of things just to get away from restrictions. And yeah, again, some very famous YouTubers that I feel like saying, "Are you dumb? Like, what happens when you get sick? Well, You know, and we're going to have a in memoriam for you on YouTube or something, you idiots. Like, anyway, that's my opinion.
I think there's two
still
things.
A high risk.
Yeah, I think there's two things that you guys have got to consider, though, right? The first thing is, I mean, the whole of America is high risk at the moment, unfortunately, right? Sadly, really. But there's two things you got to look at. You got to look at the rate that it's spreading, right? So for every person that's got it, the next day, if the equal number have caught it, or if it's a diminishing number, then you can say that you've got it under control. And then you've got to look at after this event, and unfortunately, that's the only way you're going to know whether there was a cluster because of the event. Now, you know, I'm hoping that they're going to be sensible. They're going to track the temperature of the people coming into the event. They're going to, you know, ask the right questions and try and keep the social distancing. But I don't know. I know Nick's watched them. I don't know if you've ever watched any of these radial events, Todd. The start line looks like a sardine can. Especially,
you know what I'm saying? I've seen some of it. There's 40 people on the start line. You know, 20 from each. 40 on the start line.
40,000.
Yeah, but I mean, as in 40 people on the start line looking at the bloody car, doing tyre temps and all that for the car. It's like...
It's like a pro stock team.
Yeah, it's like, God, how many people would it take a screw in a light bulb? You know, like...
How many radial races?
Yeah,
that's part of the theatre of the sport. I don't know.
It is.
The people.
There's no one in the bleachers, but there's 250 people behind the car. Yeah.
But I have an issue with it in this situation that we're in this environment we're in. I think it's a huge risk, and I think if the Americans took the same approach that the Australians did, the bulk of Australians, and just not relaxed, but just try and avoid contact. And unfortunately, events cannot go ahead. It's just no one more than us here don't. We don't want.
But Nick, in the same respect, you've got music festivals talking about starting up again. I mean, how do you have social distancing in a mosh pit?
No, you can't. You can't.
See, I thought that was off for another year, Simon. I heard that was still off for another year or so.
No, there's a I'm an avid listener of alternate music.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of talk about they're going to start selling tickets, and they've been penciling in August, September.
No.
I know. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what they're saying. I mean, it's going to come down to what the government allows groups to do. If they allow one group to do something, then they're going to have to. The big question, Nick, though, is will the duck be wearing a mask?
Yeah, no doubt he will. I think he's actually made up some masks, some COVID-8 masks. He's on board. He's already onto that. Don't worry. He wants to be selling them at the local fish and chip shop as well, not just at his race. He's going to have a Pro 275 face mask and a Radial versus World face mask, which I haven't seen yet. But look, to help the guy out, I'll buy some. But I just think this is not in the right spirit.
Mate, you won't get them into the country because they'll need to be Australian standards.
Yeah,
you'll need to get them in through Andrew Forrest.
We'll get to it onto it. We'll get to order it for us or his contacts. And look, speaking of COVID-8, we'll also switch over to the NHRA while we're here. I don't know if I actually mentioned it in a previous podcast, but they were aiming for a June restart. And at the time when I saw that, I said, "Oh, guys, come on, really? You're not going to get an event away in June." They've actually had to put that back now. They're looking at an August restart of the NHRA, which thankfully, I mean, there's a bit of common sense approach there that's gone into that. So they're looking at an August restart. I don't have an issue with someone saying we're looking at restarting as long as the date is a realistic one. But having a meet on the 22nd of May, which is less than 2 weeks away, it doesn't sit right with me. Not when you've got that sort of infection rate and death rate. Sorry. But and as for August, I don't know if that's realistic either, but at least they've realised that June is just not possible to get the event.
Those guys have got to travel track to track. And when you're working on any of those cars, whether it be a Pro Mod, a fuel car, a funny car, I mean, you're all on top of each other.
Yeah.
You know? So, it's you can't really have social distancing and run those types of cars. You can run like the Wednesday nights at the Motorplex. I can't see a problem with that because you just tell people you got to stay in your car from when you get there to when you leave. That's it. That's, you know, get your tyres on or do whatever. But that's it. In the staging lanes, down the track and on the return road, you cannot get out of the car. And I think you would successfully pull that off and be able to maintain social distancing. But you can't run a fuel car or, you know, forget it.
Or even a pro mod car as well, especially a clutch car where you got two guys underneath the car or in the car working on the clutch. It's just, I can't see it possible either. But anyway, we wish those relevant sporting leagues all the best, and we hope that we are able to get a season away sooner rather than later, but only when it's safe, guys. Really, only when it's safe. Hey, we're going to take another... Sorry, Simon, did you want to say something there? Or?
No. All I was going to add to that was, you know, it's great to see that the grassroots guys, the guys that have the least funding, the guys that have the least amount of staff, have come up with a contingency plan so clear and defined. Yet the group ones, the high profile, you know, the teams that have got millions of dollars, the authorities that are in the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars haven't got a clue what they're doing yet.
Yeah. And talking about like sports that are going to be floundering, we're going to get to it a little bit later on in the podcast. Formula One, the news gets worse every day, and there was some news over the weekend that we'll touch on shortly in terms of Britain and their new quarantine laws, which really spells the disaster for the Silverstone Grand Prix as well. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Anyway, look, time for another quick break. We'll take a break here and we'll be back with 3 from TMP right after this. One of my favourite sections of the podcast, 3 from TMP.
Three from TNP.
Anyway, this week we said 3 from TMP. It had to be your favourite hero car from an Australian movie. So, Todd, why don't you kick us off? Give us your selection and why.
Oh, sure. This is actually... I made my mind in about the first 30 seconds, and then over the weekend, I think I changed it about 7 times. But basically, favourite hero car is the V8 Valiant Charger from Metal Skin.
Okay.
Now, we have a bit of a joke between us all as well that we're always going to do a movie review on Metal Skin.
No, I will never watch that movie. I couldn't get past
every time.
Halfway. Every time, I pass out or vomit, one of the two. It wasn't a V8, it was a 6-cylinder. That was the joke in the movie.
No, that was the first car, the wagon. The actual Charger was a blonde V8, apparently.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, apparently.
There you go.
You never actually see the motor. But anyway, I'm ruining part of the movie now.
You can
that movie ruins itself. It doesn't need any help being ruined.
God.
Where the hell does witchcraft come into a car movie, you know?
Oh, yeah, fair enough. But no, but that was one of my favourites. And I actually realised the other day it was the one that made me fall in love with the Charger. And it's always, like, the Charger in there is quite heavily modified. It does have a brief look at the Melbourne street racing scene back in the mid-90s. And apparently some of the locations I went to were even used by street races in the day, or local drag races. The old Docklands, which is now a shopping area, I believe, or something like that.
Yep.
It also has a Ozcar/NASCAR in it. And yeah, the finale is the Charger going one-on-one with a NASCAR.
Okay.
See, that's why I don't, because I never get to that part of the movie. That's why I don't know about this car. Just remember.
It also has, it has Ben Mendelsohn in it as well. So, it was a hard choice.
I have to be honest with you. I saw that I've never seen the movie. I've seen the shorts to it, and it didn't excite me. The witchcraft and all that sort of thing doesn't.
Look, you can actually, I'm not picking on that movie. I do quite enjoy it, and a good listener of the podcast, Turkish, if you're listening, he loves that movie as well. you can actually skip through a good chunk of the movie and just watch the street racing. And there's some good street racing. There's a good scene with the Charger versus blowing Kingswood, I think it is. And it's actually a pretty good, 10 seconds of drag racing. But I said overall, the Charger in that movie sounds awesome. Big supercharger on it, makes all the right noises, and made me fall in love with the Charger ever since. I don't think I'll ever own one now, but that's my one.
You know, Todd, you've actually sold me the movie. I might have to have another crack at watching it.
I've got it on DVD. I'll lend it to you.
Well, I've actually made a note here. Actually, I've said Metal Skin. I've made a note for myself to maybe I should watch it. And I should open my. Someone said to me I should open my horizons, so maybe I should.
It's a good movie. You skip through. There's probably a good 20 minutes you can skip through, and it still makes it a good movie.
Yeah, okay. All right. No,
there's also an SLR 5000 in it. I mean, every Aussie movie should have an SLR 5000 in it. If you ask me. So. But I said it was a hard choice between that and then also The Big Steal. Another famous Aussie car movie.
Yeah.
Was it the Jaguar that
Yeah, the Jag. So, and again, Ben Mendelsohn as well. So, there you go. But, that's my choice for tonight. So
very good, Todd. Very good. Simon, you want to go next with your pick?
Also an Australian street racing movie, also filmed in real locations, running on empty, and it would have to be the Spotto, the blown 57 Chevy two-door.
Spotto, the two-door, fully blown 57.
Now, the thing is, the reason that car in particular stands out in all Aussie car movies is because that car was built here in Western Australia. And there are a lot of really, really cool things about that car that most people wouldn't know. Number one, that car actually started life as a four-door and had been converted into a two-door, had some two-door doors brought in from the US because getting a two-door in Australia back then was, pretty much impossible. And the engine that was in that car was built by Chev Power, which is still in business now. And Frank, which is the current owner's dad, that was his speedboat engine, the blown small block Chev that went into that car. So, that car was built over here in WA. And I think, to me, it's most people don't understand why they're so attracted to it. And it's the fact that the roof line is different on a four-door than it is to a two-door. And, it's just little things like that make the difference. And like I said, once again, that was filmed at genuine street racing locations around Sydney. So,
But Stewie Bond, we should really get him on again, and he needs to talk because he was involved where him and his uncle were involved in the production of some of those cars at the time, and then a lot of the production got moved over east. So the 57 they were actively involved in the build of that car. I didn't know Chev Power. Actually, I never knew that. I didn't know that part. So that's Phil's father. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Frank Hardy. Yep. Yeah, some dudes rocked up and said, we need a supercharged engine. And he pulled it out of his speedboat and said, here. Now, I went looking for the producers of that movie some time ago, and I tracked them to Margaret River, believe it or not.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So I don't know if that's where they still are, because I still believe there should be a not so much a remake, but a part two.
Yeah.
Part two with some Rices in there. Some old muscle cars and some Rices.
I agree. The money to get something like that off the ground is, well beyond most people's means. But I'm sure there's people in Australia in motoring enthusiasts that would be able to put that sort of funding together and get a remake or a reboot, whatever you want to call it, done of Running on Empty.
There's a Queensland stuntman that's been trying to raise the money for about, at least 10 years now. And he hasn't had much success, but he's aiming for 200 million. And I don't know. I think you could do it for less than 200 million. We shot fat pizza for about $1 million.
Mm.
And I know the stunt scenes would obviously cost a lot more, but I think you could probably do it for 20 million.
Yeah.
If you didn't get some big name actors, I mean,
So what? Deborah Conway again?
Deborah Conway. Who would replace Deborah Conway? Who would we use now? Samantha Jade? Someone like that?
I don't even know who Samantha Jade
Yeah, me
is.
either, Nick. You lost me.
Jeez. I might get ridiculed for that, actually.
But so who's on home and away out of a contract at the moment? That might be
No,
good
Samantha Jade. Well, you need a singer. You need someone that can sing. Because
going. Most of the home and away ones can't they?
See, once again, right? Just like they ruined Metal Skin with the witchcraft, they ruined that movie with the love scene. Love scenes have no place in car movies.
Yeah, it was like Man Overboard over again, wasn't it?
Oh, man.
Come on, Deborah Conway reference. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
So, Nick, your pick.
Look, my pick, I'm going to give some honourable mentions first because 1981 film that not a lot of people know about. I watched it when I was a kid. Probably shouldn't have really as a kid. But is a movie called Road Games. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this movie. And it had a Hollywood actor, two Hollywood actors actually, Stacy Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis as the leads in this movie. And she's a hitchhiker. He picks her up in his truck. He's freighting east-west. And a serial killer follows them across the Australian outback. And now this is 1981, long before Wolf Creek and Peter Falconio. So I thought it's, a real interesting movie. But the thing that there's a police car in this movie that typifies Group C touring car racing. It is an XD, and I've got some pictures on the screen here. You can see it now. It's an XD police car that has got basically almost the full Group C kit on it, and it's kitted up as a police car. And I never forget that movie as a kid, and that car stayed with me. I think it's an awesome. It's not in the movie very long, but it's certainly attracted my attention. Let's put it that way.
Interesting point about that movie. That is one of Quentin Tarantino's. That movie and a few movies that were made during that era are considered some of his favourite movies. They're commonly known as genre movies.
Yep.
There was the one about the wild boar.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Razorback. That's it. There was a heap of them. Anyway, so during that era of the Australian film industry, you got 150% tax deduction if you invested in Aussie films. So companies that had to pay, say, $150,000 in tax would give them $100,000 and not have to pay the tax. That's right.
So the film industry had this massive influx of money. They didn't actually know what to do with it. It wasn't until the laws got changed that all stopped. But there were a lot of movies made, and that's one of them. And I remember watching a documentary and Quentin Tarantino actually pointing out, and the most famous Australian stunt drivers and stuntmen were all around in that era, and they went on to, Mad Max and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So great era for Australian film industry.
Most certainly. And no doubt following on from that was the 1987 action movie Running from the Guns. I don't know if you guys remember this movie. It's an awesome movie as well. And
HO with a tow bar.
Right. HO with a tow bar, and also an AC Cobra as well.
That is the Mark 1 Shelby pre SC's, competition version, the non-competition version. So it doesn't have the flared guards. The originals had 260 cubic inch motor, something like that. Then the 289.
Yep.
Then the SC version came out with small flares, and it had the oil cooler vent under the front. And then eventually the 427 SC, which is what all the kit cars are copied off of. But that is a Shelby. That is a genuine Shelby Cobra.
Okay.
And I've heard rumours that car got written off. Right? I don't think it was in the filming of the movie, but it got written off and it got parted out.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think I know where the cylinder heads are to it.
Oh, really? Geez, there you go. There's a exclusive. Do you remember the scene, the chase scene, the famous chase scene? It's funny you should mention Jaguar from
I
the Big
will
Stick.
never. Hang on. Which part of the panel van was my favourite scene in that?
Oh, that too as well. Yeah, the HT panel van. But the chase scene where they're going up the hill and then back down the hill again, and they're being chased by those two guys in the Jag. And it's the song from Elton John. I can't remember the name of the song
Rocket
now.
Man.
No, it's not Rocket Man. It's an Elton John song. It's not one of his. It's a.
If they were in a Pontiac, it would have been Rocket Man.
It's a B-side Elton John song. Out of this town or leave this town. I can't remember anyway.
I can't remember that. I remember the
song.
van scene. I thought that was awesome.
It was pretty cool too.
Is there anyone that's ever sat in a Cobra Kit car, if you can picture yourself standing up on the seat and swinging a baseball bat at someone's windscreen.
Anyway, they had an XY in it as well. But look, my number one pick was also Running on Empty, and was the XY GT from Running on Empty. That was my hero car. Still is. I think for a number of reasons. Lot of people would say, well, it gets wrecked and destroyed by the end of before the end of the movie. Why would it be a hero?
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
The Gazzard brothers had a crack at it first, and then they went underneath a semi trailer and gets destroyed. So, but yeah, to me it typifies the era back then, and I think the XY GT really does. For me, typify what that era was, and I like, especially the jump scene where he does the jump as well. I think it's awesome.
Do you think it still snatches into second, Nick?
You beat me to it, Simon.
I think everyone was waiting for the
Green's nice.
Anyway, so yeah, that was my pick. We should also mention Mad Max as well. I mean, a lot of people will be critical of us that in our top three we didn't have a Mad Max car in there, but there was a number.
Which one? Which car?
I think you'd have to say
One.
Number one, the Interceptor. I can't. There can be
With
no car really.
With the switch for the supercharger.
Yeah, the switch with the supercharger that was on
and
a clutch,
the bent piece of aluminium with some hoses in it for the scoop. That's no. We should never mention anything that has Mad Max. As far as stunt driving, I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But as far as the cars, they were really designed for people who didn't know what they were looking at. Because I mean, if you watch when they flip over, they're all 6-cylinder pieces of crap. They're not.
It was running on empty, but the HT.
One.
That was a 6.
I know it's two.
Well.
Two. The chart. Well, it's an American Challenger or Charger. Fox's car.
Yeah, Fox's car that gets torched doesn't actually get torched, does it? I mean, that's in WA, that car now.
Yeah.
Mm. So
where's the 57?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know where that's ended up. We should probably ask Stu that, or one of our listeners. If you know where the 57 is, let us know. I tried to find where the XY was, and it's all my internet research.
There is another card that I wanted to give honourable mention, and that's the 55 from American Graffiti.
Oh yeah.
That car was not only in American Graffiti, it was in 2-lane blacktop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a drag car. It was a 427 4-speed car with a beam front.
Yeah, okay.
Tilt front.
Wow.
Yeah, cool deal. And, of course, Harrison Ford, I mean.
Good driver, but not a very good pilot. He's not good at flying. Harrison Ford crashed again the other day. Well, didn't crash, but flew in front of an airplane, of all things.
Yeah. That's a wave.
Yeah.
We're right, thanks. We're all good.
Yeah.
Just passing through.
Yeah.
Don't put the kettle on.
All right. Okay, guys, we'll take another short break here and we'll be back right after this. We're going to get stuck into Formula One. And if Todd feels like it, I think he brought to the table, he wants to talk about the E-Series. So he can.
Oh, did I? Oh, yeah, sure.
You texted me. You're the one that sent me the text. So
Right.
you can deep into that if you want. But anyway, we'll take a short break. Be back right after this. Talking Power Podcast, episode 85. You're listening to Nick DeChembry, co-host Simon Gonzo Travellini, and Todd Brinkworth. We are on 88.5 FM where the Valley comes alive, and also as a podcast through iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Podbean. Now, guys, Formula One is in more trouble than the early settlers right now, as I always like to say, and unfortunately it just gets worse and worse. News over on the weekend was that Britain will be exercising some new quarantine laws. They will have the mandatory 2-week quarantine, so anyone flying into England will have to undertake a 2-week quarantine, with the exception of France. So if you're French, you're in France, going into England, you will not need to take the 2-week quarantine. But in the other national...
Andrew Forrest.
And
Kerry Stokes.
Yeah, look, fly straight in.
Beat me to it almost.
The Kerry Stokes one probably raises more questions. Anyway, leave that alone.
Anyway.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, no.
He'll buy the radio station just to sack us.
Exactly. Exactly what I was about to say. He's got friends in high places. He'll find us, and that's it. We're off air. You know.
Anyway, look, Formula One. This really raises a lot of questions about the Silverstone Grand Prix, which is scheduled to be coming up on which I've got my dates here, the 19th or the 26th of July. They have left themselves open 2 weeks there to run that race, but with this 2-week quarantine period, they are seeking further clarification from the British government. Now, the Formula One season was supposed to be getting underway on the 5th of July in Austria. Budapest today have come forward and also said that's on the 2nd of August. There will be no crowds at that event as well. So that's on the 2nd of August. So there's a number of questions that have come to the fore in just recent days. The other thing is the Formula One the teams have agreed in principle on a salary cap. So it's a 227 million budget caps for all the teams next year.
You know what, guys? That means that we could probably have a crack at running a Formula One team. It's only 225 million. I mean, before it was out of our reach at $500 million, but 225.
No, just do it like
ring Twiggy up.
I'm pretty sure Nick and I spoke about it on the podcast once. Rich Energy. Have a look at them one night, Simon.
Have a look
Formula
at what?
One, Rich Energy, they were called. The Formula One team that essentially ran on nothing but hopes and dreams. and literally, like, when the debitors came knocking on the door, there was no money because there wasn't never any money in the first place.
It sounds like Williams.
Yeah, so anyway. Sorry. Anyway, Nick, go on.
No, I was just going to add that even though they've agreed in principle, none of the teams, not one team has signed up yet for this new agreement of the salary cap, which is meant to be coming into play next year. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Now, that does not include driver salaries. So that's 227 million on operations of the team, not including salaries.
And that's US dollars, isn't it?
That was actually US dollars, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's like 100 billion Australian dollars, I think. It's going off the exchange rate. Did you guys catch the interview of Lewis Hamilton?
Bits of it, yeah. I did see that the other night. I haven't watched the whole lot.
He's not interested in racing without a crowd, which makes me wonder, how can you hear the crowd in that helmet?
I'll be frank. I don't think Lewis it really isn't in a position to be dictating that at this stage.
Yeah,
really.
He's got 55 million reasons.
Yeah,
well, apparently why he can.
Yep.
US reasons, not Australian reasons. US reasons.
I agree, but I don't think he's still in a position where. Look, I felt I understand the Australian Grand Prix had to get cancelled, but his commentary certainly didn't help. I mean, he questioned why he even flew to Australia in the first place, and now he doesn't want to race without a crowd. I think if it's safe to do so, I understand you can't have a crowd there, but if it's safe to race. That said, I mean, just talking out loud.
Is he worried about his merchandise sales?
I honestly,
he's got a new deux de toilette, and you watch. He's got new socks out. Might even have new jocks. I'm not sure. Those step ones might be his. I think maybe. Step one.
Yeah.
Hey, we also need to touch on a bit of an elephant in the room. Even though there's no racing going on, contracts will still expire at the end of the year. And Daniel Ricciardo, he was only contracted to the end of this year, so he did a 2-year deal with Renault. I'm not convinced anymore he will stay. I think poor engine development there. They haven't really gone along at the great rate of knots. And I spruiked that deal to a number of people at the time. Even on this podcast, I thought it was a great thing that he did that. That said, their engine development was poor last year. Now with the coronavirus hampering, slowing down 2020, I'm not convinced he will stay now. And was it a good move? I don't know. But the question
Nick,
is...
I'd like to point out to our listeners that, once again, I think Daniel had about 40 million reasons to go with Renault.
Yeah, look, it was certainly, I think money came into play, but also, did it do his aspirations any damage? Probably not. I mean, it was only 1 year of poor performance. This year, he racing in.
He finished, was it at least one podium I can think of?
Well, he finished ahead of Nico Hülkenberg quite significantly, and that spelt the end for Paul Nico as well. Paul Nico got the sack at the end of last year, so as a result. So, I mean, I think he proved himself there. But the question is, where would he go? Will Red Bull take him back? And if so, where does Albon go? That's the question I have. Like, Albon, has proved himself. Max Verstappen's staying. He's signed. He's locked in. Albon has probably done enough to keep his seat there. So the only revolving door that I can see opening for him is Sebastian. If he was to leave Ferrari, then he might get a seat there. But will Sebastian leave Ferrari? And then the question is, where would Sebastian go? So there's a fair bit to play out there. I don't know what's going to be happening.
I don't see why he wouldn't stay with Renault.
They'll want to get their scoots on if he's to stay there. Their engine development needs to move along. And
but I mean, you've got to understand, right? There are people that do motorsports as a living, and then there are people that do motorsports because they want to win. It's nice to win, but at the end of the day, if you're getting paid, tens of millions of dollars every year, and if you've got an unreliable car that often doesn't finish, well, that's a bonus. It means you can go home early.
Yep. I think he did get the early plane out a few times.
I can't see a problem, really.
Yeah.
Go get a nice meal somewhere. You don't have to worry about all the post-race interviews and stuff. You can just, go out, have a good time, chill for a bit.
Anyway, Todd, over to you. Did you want to touch on?
Oh, just this E series. I think actually there's a few SMSs going back between.
Feel free to just yell out when you.
Todd, I got to know, right?
When you're done.
Why is BP sponsoring this series?
I don't know that much. Like, maybe because they're supplying the fuel to the burners to keep your house powered while you're playing video games at home. I don't know. It
just seems like a really strange mix. The only thing that I could think of is that maybe all the solar panels that they've got on top of all the service stations are somehow, running the simulators. Maybe, how there's always at the back of the service station, there's that door that says staff only.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where they keep the simulators.
It could be. You could be under something, So, I said the other day, Nick and I were amongst chat about the return of motorsport and all that. I can't remember what it was now, Nick. It was about the E series, and there was a suspension or something in the E series?
Suspension.
Oh, sorry, we talking.
Yeah.
Did someone get suspended?
Hang on. Sorry, I didn't realise I was part of this discussion. I thought I just set yourself a healthy challenge, eat less carbs, then have fun discovering all the other foods you can eat. When bread and pasta and rice are off the table, I forget that.
I think I'm being set up here, right?
Who got suspended?
SVG. No, he didn't get suspended. He got
Penalty, that's right.
Yeah, got a penalty.
He got like an
5.
AFL suspension.
He got a 5
Yeah.
penalty.
He got a suspended suspension.
No, he got a 5. Was it 5? I think it was 5 grid penalty.
Yeah, something like that. And see, I wasn't actually trying to promote it because I must admit, I've watched
But
a bit
did he
more
cheat
of
in
it.
qualifying? Did he have the wrong rocker ratio?
I
Cam have too much lift.
Seriously cannot get in. I gave it Denver. If you're listening, Denver, if you're listening, I tried. It does not. I can't. I just can't. So I'm out. I'm done. If you want to talk about it, feel free to discuss it.
No, I was about to say,
What was the
But
grid
also-
penalty for? I'm intrigued.
Anton, what his sparring buddy, Anton Di Pasquale punted him off again.
Yeah.
It was. I didn't look at the incident. I have no care. But
So SVG got the penalty.
Yeah.
For Di
Yeah, he
Pasquale punting him off.
yeah.
well, no, he punted off Di Pasquale.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And as I said, then he got told to go to bed without dessert because, playing video games, being naughty, bed without dessert. So,
Did I read right, Todd? But did I read right? Did
Here we
I
go,
read
yeah.
from who was that said we have to review multiple camera angles? Did someone?
yeah, you read that. I don't remember who said that. And that's, I must admit,
Listen. Right,
Isn't
what
there
they need to do.
infinite amount of camera? It's a computer game. You can
They need
swivel
to
the
get. Nah, they need to get Keanu there, right? And
in the
get
Matrix.
into. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Get into the code.
Yeah.
The, what do you call it, Todd? The root code, or
Yeah.
is that what it's called?
The source. Come on.
Source code. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not like pasta sauce, Nick. It's different.
Well, just reading that magazine, it says to stop eating carbs and stop eating pasta and bread. So this obviously not written for an Italian boy.
Yeah. Better homes and concrete.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I saw
Anyway.
that. I read that. I saw we needed more camera angles. I said, "What? It's like an infinite amount of camera angles, surely." But anyway, obviously, I'm incorrect.
Yeah. Now, my other two cents about the e-racing is I've got a sim at home that I have played a bit, hadn't touched it for about 6 months.
You should join the V8 supercars then.
No, I dragged it out the other day. My patience lasted for 5.5 minutes and I went outside and drove my Evo. And again, I've got friends that listen to this podcast now that they are deeply entrenched in e-racing, and some of them are doing really well in local leagues and
Todd,
stuff like.
they have got a primetime TV show on, I don't know, one of the commercial networks on, I think it's Saturday mornings, which is this ridiculous game. I really struggle to watch it for more than 30 seconds where they're in cars, but they're playing soccer. And it's a three-dimensional soccer where there's multiple nets.
Right. Okay.
I'm telling you, it's called LPL or something.
So I watch.
LPL Pro. There you go.
TV,
LPL
so-
Pro.
I'm surprised you have time to watch TV on a Saturday morning. It's normally the busiest hour at Allfast, isn't it? Saturday mornings.
No. This is at home with the kids,
Oh, okay.
usually making breakfast.
There you go. All right, I stand corrected.
But I just, when there is, drag racing, for example, which is crying for primetime TV. I don't get why commercial networks feel that they are gonna. It's on 7+. There you go. Televise this stuff and popularize it. It's I don't know. I guess the thing is that is this the future? Is this what?
Nope. Oh, it might be the future for some people, not for me. Nope. I refuse to concede that this is not the future. Not for me.
When we spoke about this on the phone again, I think, Nick, I said I think there is a future in it, so I'm agreeing with Simon right now, and it's a good time for it. This will be a breakaway form of motorsport as such.
They call it the Rocket League, and they have championships, and there's a prize pool of $100,000 US up for grabs. I'm serious. I'm reading this straight off the 7+ website. $100,000. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. What
Well,
do
you know,
you
if-
need an Xbox or what do you need to play it?
If it was a
I
computer
should
game,
practice this. I'll give up motor racing. That's it. I'm going to join up the LPL Pro League.
more money in it too.
$100,000?
Yeah.
Serious? That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what? They should get AFL players involved in it. And cricketers.
Hey, there is AFL and cricket for the Xbox and the PlayStation.
Well, are we going to go to an E-Series? Because their soccer's
be
already
great.
playing somewhere overseas, yeah?
Russia,
Nick's completely.
Russia somewhere. I think
Where
they're
are
already
you?
playing soccer.
I can't believe we're actually. I'm happy to facilitate your discussion on it, but no part of this interests me whatsoever. But that's okay.
Anyway, update on the XW, Nick.
Oh, hang on. We'll take a break. Because I've actually got some other stuff I want to talk about that aren't on the notes. I only found it late this evening. So we're going to take a break and we'll be back right after this. Okay, welcome back to the Talk and Power podcast. We're back. I've reinvigorated after that lengthy discussion on the E-Series. So, on competition...
I don't even know who won it. Who's leading the points?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Ask Todd. Don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I was more interested in the penalty. I wasn't actually interested in the racing. I was more interested in the penalty.
I thought you were researching this. I was under the impression it
Me?
said in the notes, talk to Todd.
It did.
Nah, yeah.
The
Nick
notes
knows.
actually
He wrote
say,
the notes.
it actually says, I'll take a nap here and leave with Todd. I have nothing to add or say.
Anyway.
I have only added it to the notes as Todd sent some story over the weekend regarding the SVG penalty. I have absolutely no care. Those are my exact words.
Actually, to be fair, my research was I dragged my simulator out and, as I said, had a quick play, went, oh, this is boring, and went outside.
Oh, thank you, Todd. This is boring. Hello.
Achievement unlocked, went outside, you know.
It has no relevance to, the outcome of the race or the championship. I mean, there is a championship that's going to be decided on these races. You do realise that.
Yeah.
There is sponsorship money and TV rights.
Come on.
Anyway, updating the XW, Nick.
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly.
Oh dear.
Top 10. The Competition Plus, one of our favourite websites. I know Simon and we go there all the time. I was following Kelly Betts today, and she made reference that there's a story on Competition Plus, and it is the top 10 drag races of all time in Australia. Now, every night, someone gets we go up another number. So currently they're up to number 6, but I am going to go through, they've already disclosed who does not make the list. So Aaron Tremaine, not in the list. Rochelle Splatt,
These are drag racers.
Australian, yeah.
Top
drag.
10 of all time.
Top 10 of Australia. So
Yeah.
Aaron Tremaine does not make the list. Rochelle Splatt will not make the list. Darren Morgan does not make the list. This one surprised me a bit. Larry Ormsby doesn't make the list. Ash Marshall doesn't make the list. And Graham Withers doesn't make the list. But I can disclose number 10 to number 6 tonight.
Hang on. I'm just going to run through who I think is on the list.
Yeah, go on. Yep.
Gary Phillips, Victor Bray, John Zapier. Victor Bray, John Zapier. Graham Cowan. One of the Reeds, probably Phil.
I think we just gave away the top 5. We haven't got to the top 5 yet. They've only gone from 10 to 6. So every night another number gets released. So by next week, but when we meet again, we'll go.
So who's on the bottom 4 now?
All right. So top 10. So number 10, Dave Grubnick. Number 9.
Oh,
Richie
hang on. That's not right.
Dave Grubnick. You don't.
Yeah, I mean, his achievements are awesome, but he didn't do them in Australia.
Yeah. No, good point. Richie Crampton. He didn't do them in Australia either. Here's one that did. Kelly Betts. She's in at number 8.
Yeah.
Number 7. This kind of surprised me. I would have thought he'd be a little bit up the pointy end. Victor Bray, number 7. And number 6, Peter Ridgway. So the top 5, we still don't know. But I think I would suggest that the 5 you mentioned before.
Do you
Gary
reckon
Phillips.
Ridgeway, I mean, is Polito going to be in there then?
No, he won't. There's no room. In the 5, there wouldn't be room for
Well,
Polito.
that's a bit of a, because I don't know. Do you think, because Polito won a lot, man.
I know. I was
Polito-
surprised by Ridgeway too.
Polito owned Pro Stock there for a while.
Yep.
Most people wouldn't even know who Joe Polito was, but
No.
he's a top bloke.
Yeah, yep. Ford icon in Pro Stock in Australia.
Mm.
But yeah, so I reckon you're right on the money, but Graham Cowan has to be surely number 1 or number 2. Jim Reed has to be number 1 if Graham isn't. And number 2.
I would say Gary Phillips would have to be number 1.
Yeah, he's got to play into it as well, doesn't he? Gary
He has. I mean, he's won more championships. He would have won more championships than all the other guys put together.
Yep.
What's he at? 17, 18?
Yeah, he's the most. He's the most championship wins in Australian drag racing. So,
and then Zap would have to be.
He'd have to be top 5 as well, most certainly.
Yeah,
and then
and not just for his championships, for the first 7, the first 6, first 200 mile an hour. First 5.
Yep, most certainly. And then that only leaves room for one of the Reeds, really, doesn't it? And I actually think, do you think Steve might not get a gig?
I don't know. I mean, Jim would be the obvious choice.
Oh, no, Jim, no, I've locked him in number 1 or number 2, most certainly.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about...
Oh, okay, the other Reeds. Yeah. Yeah, probably Phil, yeah.
Yep, Phil.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, very, very interesting.
Yeah, so
very
that's
interesting.
If you go every Wednesday evening to not every Wednesday, every evening to the Competition Plus, you'll see that the rest of the top 5 unfold. But I thought, some interesting. Larry Ormsby, I think, was probably the only one out of that list that probably should be in there. So anyway,
definitely, he was an innovator.
Yep. Anyway, I just thought I'd touch on that. I just saw that this week. I was following Kelly Betts on Facebook, and she made mention of it. And, she was in number 8, and rightfully so. And also, hang on a sec. Well, what about, does the Lamatinas not come into play here?
It's an all-time list,
Well, I'm gonna put this out there. There's 4 championships in the Lamatina family.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
so
that is true.
So anyway,
Interesting.
All right, we'll take a short break here, and we'll be back right after this. All right. Welcome back. Talking Power Podcast, episode 85. I'm here with Simon Gonzo Travellini and Todd Brinkworth on 88.5 FM and podcasting through iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever you get your podcasts from. And our website. Head to our website. There's some great content there. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about what have you been up to with the Camry? We kicked off the show with the Camry. Maybe we should close as well in our closing segment. What's been
mate? I'm working on some awesome stuff.
Oh,
there is this weak part in the transmission that I'm dealing with. So I had a bit of a win today. Hey,
yep. I said the whole thing. Or what?
The whole thing. No, it's look. The second gear sprag is a problem in it's called an A541 or A540. It's the front wheel drive version of an A340, and the sprag in an A340 is a problem. Now I'd made some bits when we originally modified that car, but never fitted them. So I'm working on those, and I had a bit of a win today because the parts that I made actually fit a genuine Toyota Land Cruiser sprag. So I'm hoping that I'll have that assembly ready to fit, and we'll get a gearbox out and do that. I haven't done anything about the other motor yet.
Yep.
But I've been driving the car every day, loving every minute of it. Get some crazy looks
bet.
Yep. And have had some absolute pearl of laughs at work where people have gone, what the hell's that wastegate hanging on the side of the Camry? And then, you open the bonnet and they're going, was this a joke? This thing's dead standard. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the season starting, getting some laps in there and just having some fun with it. I can't wait to put that other motor together, and I really would love if one of us, if we can get everything to work, run it in Super Street for a season, because just the thought of a front wheel drive car is just so ridiculous, especially considering it's not a Honda.
Yeah.
It gets daily driven, and it isn't, the semblance of a body shell draped over a tube frame like everything else that I've seen.
Yeah. No, I think that would be awesome. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Actually, that would be a lot of fun. So, yeah, I think we really need to look at doing that if we can get a season away, not even a whole season, maybe a handful of events, and in Super Street that'll be certainly put the cat amongst the pigeon, as they say.
You got to chase the points, Nick. Got to chase the points.
Okay, all right.
It's the only way you're going to get invited to Qatar or.
It's a good point.
Abu Dhabi or any of those places.
Hey,
we want to turn the radio world upside down. That's what we want to do.
We do. Have you got have you managed? So you got the 2, 3.
Well, actually, not upside down. Front to back.
Front to back. East to west.
Yeah,
East to west. Have I got? Sorry.
Did you get the 2, 3, 5? Is that going all right now? Doesn't foul with anything?
Yeah, like I said last episode, we got Glenn from Nelg's Alley Mods to modify the intercooler piping, and I haven't had a chance to do any of that because I think the extra traction is really going to push the transmission to the limit.
Yep.
But yeah, it's going to happen. I think it's important too for me to try and still keep it looking fairly standard because I tell you what, and I'm not saying that this has happened, but when you drive past a R33 Skyline in a cloud of tyre smoke coming from the front of a Camry, smiling at the guy, it kind of it makes you feel warm and fuzzy on the inside, It really,
Shout out to all the Nissan owners out there. But that never happened anyway. That was like
no, of course not, because I'm sensible,
maybe.
and I wouldn't do anything like that ever.
Hey Todd, can you give us an update on the Evo? How are you travelling with that?
I've been driving to work a bit, which has been pretty amusing.
Did you come across a silver R33 Skyline as well? Did you?
Yeah, I cannot confirm or deny anything at the moment. Let's just say I actually, where I'm working at the moment, I end up cutting through the back of Balcatta. And we all know that Balcatta is the home capital of the world,
It is. It says so on my shirt.
Yeah, you get some funny looks going through the back of Balcatta at the speed limit. Let's just put it that way. But,
when you say speed limit, do you mean the speed limit of the car or the speed limit of the road?
No, I do the speed limit everywhere in that car, Just
especially are you cutting through Jones Street as well? Are you going through?
I cannot confirm or deny that.
Some of
is that in case you incriminate yourself?
Yeah.
We're not used to Evos in Balcatta here. We don't have too many Evos.
No, it's more of a Rexy if you go down.
No, I must admit, I get a lot of Rexies looking at me and a lot of Focuses. One of the, those.
Oh yeah. They're also front-wheel drive.
Yeah, the front-wheel drive Focus ones, the XR5, whatever they're called.
The Torque Steer Monster.
And Golf GTIs. That's my other new favourite at the moment, Golf GTIs.
Be careful with the Golfs.
There was one that the other day I went, see ya. Well, I heard it coming and I went, no, bye-bye.
I know, I can't believe it either. But those DSG ones that are tuned, I believe that there's a couple that run 11s.
Yeah, they I was going to crack a German joke then, but I thought I'd better not. We might lose some of our audience, so they're pretty quick. I'm just going to leave it at that, all right? But But other than that, it probably comes off the road in the next week or two for some modifications, the Evo, and still aiming to do some events when I'm allowed to later this year. Let's put it that way.
Well, it sounds like we're going to have some events to do. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Certainly
And
that way.
so the XW.
The XW, I haven't laid a spanner on it, but it's ready. I went into the shed the other day and did a full shed clean out, and I'm toying with the idea. I've got the stub axles and the disc brake front end for it, most of the bits
the big
for it.
disc brake conversion.
Oh,
Listen,
I
mate,
know.
you better check with the Targa rules before you go do that.
yeah.
They
I'm
might
worried
put
about
you in some sort of exhibition class.
No, you can run it in classics. Ask Tony from Tony's Auto Records or whatever. You can run it in the classics now.
No, I think he's that's an invitation deal.
No, he on the classic rules he can run. Again, Denver knows
It's got
best.
like some big stroker engine in that thing.
Yeah,
Hmm.
in
You're allowed to
You can
do
run-
that.
yeah.
Oh, get the dust off the XY.
Yeah, I know. That's
You'd,
right.
you'd almost fit, Simon. You'd almost fit. Like no word of a lie. You'd almost fit in the classic rues.
I don't know. That car was never designed to go around corners. In fact, I don't think XW or XYs were ever designed to go around.
No.
Oh, it does it with style. It does it blazing the tires off the back, and that's with the
Oh yeah,
multi-link
Paul's
rear end.
car. Paul,
Yeah.
yeah, but he loves it. He
Yeah.
he doesn't go there to win. He's just going there to melt tires, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. What events can you do in a car like that and go and carve up on the street and not get arrested?
Mm. None.
Yeah, that's
Tiger
about
West.
it. Yeah.
That's it.
That's right. Yep. So anyway, that's my dilemma at the moment. It's not a dilemma, but I don't know whether to go the whole because I need the booster. I've got a booster that needs reconditioning, and I just need the master cylinder. I don't have a master cylinder to suit the disc brake front end. So if I can get my hands on that, then I might just bite the bullet and change while I'm doing all this pulling the motor out. I may as well do it at the same time. I just think it's
I'm
a waste
sure
of time.
that you can get the master cylinders new.
Yeah, you can do. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you can. Or it's
And
an
the
X. I can get an
booster, I don't know if there's anyone left that rebuilds them. There was an old guy called, his nickname was Booster Bob that worked for Repco. And he did all
Okay.
the ones
Hmm.
back in the 80s and 90s when, we were all fitting them.
Mm. Yeah, so I've got the booster, but it needs a recon, so I might be in trouble there. But anyway, and I've got the booster bracket as well, so I've got all the bits there. I really should probably do it while the engine's out as well. So that's where we're at with the XW, but I haven't actually started anything, just getting all my bits and bobs in line. Now, while we're here talking about garage work, one of the guys we interviewed back on episode 2 of Stories from the Garage, Brendan Franklin, really proud to announce that he has been appointed the radial media. He'll be doing the radial media coverage at the track. So hashtag Picos Race Car.
Yeah.
Check him out.
He's a top bloke, man. He's a top bloke and couldn't have got a better person to do the job.
Yeah, most definitely. Really great guy. Very very good with his media stuff and editing and whatnot. So I think it's an awesome pick, and we're really looking forward to seeing some of the content that'll be coming out this year when we eventually get racing. So congratulations, Brendan. Well done. It's a good job. Speaking of Stories from the Garage, we actually had Adam on the episode that hasn't gone air yet. That'll be going out next Monday. So Adam Ward from the Pod Filter. We had a really good old chat. He says to say hello to you guys as well, and may even throw in the odd barb here and there. So you have to catch that one. He's got some big news coming out about his podcast, but I'll leave him to disclose that in due course. So he will be coming up with some big news. He's been stuck in Armidale, unfortunately. He hasn't been able to get home to Beverly. But however, as of next weekend, he'll be able to do that. So he's been kind of stuck. But anyway, so thanks.
I
to
thought
Adam
you were
for
going to
that as well.
say to, like Perth or Pasadena. So surely there's a border at Armidale, surely.
No, he was yes, but he was stuck in Armidale, poor bloke, and he tried getting over to back, and that's a house. Wasn't able to do so. Couldn't prove that it was essential. So
He should have. Could have given him a letter from his employer.
Yep. That he needs to work from home. But anyway, he chose to do the right thing, Adam, and yeah, so we shout out to him, and we really appreciate that. And just one more shout out, those you probably can't see. What am I doing here? That I'm wearing my Benzene's shirt.
Yes.
Fueled by passion. Johnny is running a special at the moment on his website, so head on over to either his Facebook page, Benzene Detailing, or his website, and he's doing a discount on these shirts and hoodies as well. On the back, there's a picture of Mark Happy Williams HQ, and also Anthony Palazzo's XY, and a Lamborghini. I don't know who has that Lamborghini, but I have a feeling I may do, but I don't want to say who it is. But head on over there. He's doing a special discount on the shirts.
Is that because it's an AFL player?
No. I'm not 100% sure if it's actually John's Lamborghini or not. So I don't want to say John's surname. I have a feeling it's his, but I'm not 100% sure. I should have checked with Johnny beforehand. But you can get those shirts. He's discounting them, and all the money goes to the Cancer Council. We were supposed to do the biggest morning tea, which has unfortunately been cancelled. But watch this space. As soon as we can get back to doing events and whatnot, Johnny and the Talking Power team will be collaborating and doing something. What it is, we're not quite sure yet, but we will certainly be doing something. So stay tuned. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's another podcast.
There you go. Simon, you still with us?
Or if you're out there on the streets and a white Camry with an old Italian man with a walking stick and beads on his seat pulls up next to you, be careful.
Just to watch yourself, okay? All right, guys. Look, thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your time. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time. All right, Todd, Simon, thanks very much.
Thanks for having us, Nick.
No worries.
See you, Nick.
See you, mate.
guys.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.